Here at the Missouri Institute of Mental Health, we believe that the quality of the data collected in a multi-site research study, such as the Consumer Operated Services Program, is highly dependent on the quality of the interview process. A poorly conducted interview can jeopardize the reliability and validity of a multi-site study. For that reason, the Missouri Institute of Mental Health Coordinating Center has developed a training kit for the multi-site project. This kit is designed to be used by the 8 study sites participating in the Consumer Operated Services Program. The purpose of the kit is to reduce interviewer error across the 8 study sites participating in this multi-site effort. The kit consists of this videotape and also a training manual. The training manual will focus on such topics as interviewers' responsibilities, informed consent, confidentiality. It will also focus on how to ask the questions, how to respond to the respondents, how to build rapport with respondents, and also how to conduct interviews in a culturally competent manner. The manual also contains exercises that will facilitate the experiential learning of the interviewers that are being trained. The use of the manual and the video will help to ensure at the 8 study sites that interviewers are trained to be consistent across all of the 8 cities participating in the multi-site study. Before we move on to the actual training component of this video, we'd like to spend a few minutes with Dr. Jean Campbell, who is the principal investigator for the Consumer Operated Service Program multi-site research study. She is going to talk to us about the purpose of our multi-site study.
Hello, my name is Jean Campbell, and I am proud to be able to present the training video for this research study. I am the principal investigator of the Coordinating Center for the Consumer Operated Services Multi-Site Research Initiative. I'm going to take a few minutes before we begin to really get into interviewer training to explain the background, the importance, and how this study will be used. It is part of our belief in the empowerment through the knowledge around this project that makes your understanding of the research in this project so important. Consumer Operated Services began about 20 years ago with the need of mental health consumers their need for peer support and to find alternatives to the traditional mental health services that were operated at that time. Preliminary research and program evaluation has indicated that these services are effective and save cost in service delivery. However, it is until this point that we've been able to design a rigorous random assigned population that has an experimental model with a common protocol that will be used at 8 sites throughout the country. This will really yield reliable and valid information that will be important for the future of consumer operated services. You see, as we approach a new era of healthcare delivery and managed care, it's becoming very difficult for consumer operated services to really continue to provide their programs without having good data to show the outcomes, the cost, and the satisfaction of consumers with these services. Also, it's key that these services begin to be operated in partnership with traditional mental health services. This project is going to study the outcomes and cost of consumer-operated services operating in partnership or as an adjunct to traditional mental health services. We have 8 study sites throughout the United States participating in this project, in addition to our coordinating center. It is a 4-year, $20 million project. During that time, we're going to look at costs and the outcomes, including empowerment, social inclusion, housing, employment, and satisfaction with services. The common protocol that you will be administering at the local sites combines scales from each one of those outcomes, and that will be the important tool in this study. It is equally important that you deliver this common protocol in a standardized way. This research will be dependent on being able to pool all of the participants' responses from all the sites. That will give us the power to be able to talk in a scientific and knowledgeable way about what we find over the next 4 years. With this information, consumer-operated services will be able to develop resources, to develop better partnerships, and to be able to better serve a wide range of diverse mental health consumers as we move into the next millennium.
In a multi-site research initiative such as the Consumer Operated Services Program, the steps involved in the survey procedure are numerous. First, the 8 study sites plus the Center for Mental Health Services and the MIMH Coordinating Center had to get together and figure out what is the hypothesis that we want to test with this study. What do we want to find out by conducting this research initiative? The next step was to identify instruments or questions that would get us the information that we need to conduct our study. That involved looking for validated scales and questionnaires that would collect the information that we needed for the study. The next step involved coming together and placing the scales strategically within the questionnaire. The next step involved testing that common protocol with consumers in some of the study sites. After the information was collected through interviews with consumers, the details were analyzed and the common protocol was refined. The next step involved packaging the common protocol for use by the 8 study sites. The old Boy Scouts motto of "Be prepared" is of utmost importance to interviewers. Ill-prepared interviewers can jeopardize the integrity of a multi-site study. It is important for interviewers to be prepared for each and every interview that is to be conducted. So how do you prepare for an interview? First, understand the purpose of the survey. Second, practice. Practice reading the questions out loud. Practice recording the answers to the questions. Third, reserve the interview location in advance. Make sure that the room is private and that it will be available when you need it. Fourth, gather the required forms. The informed consent forms or any other forms that your study site might require need to be packaged and taken to the interview with you. Fifth, gather required supplies. Be sure to take pencils, paper, perhaps a box of tissues. Sixth, prepare yourself. Self-awareness is the first step in ensuring that you will relate to all respondents in a culturally competent manner. You don't know who might walk through the door. Be sure that the interview room is accessible to people who might use wheelchairs. Seventh, create a favorable environment. Introduce yourself and ask the respondent how they would like to be addressed. Engage in small talk. Don't rush into the interview before they feel comfortable enough to begin. Eighth, review the information for informed consent and confidentiality. It is critically important that this information be reviewed with the respondent before the interview proceeds. And last, inform the respondent about the interview format. Let the person know how long the interview will likely take, what to do if he or she is uncomfortable answering certain questions, how the interview will be conducted, how the information will be used. Your preparedness inspires confidence in the study participants that you know what you are doing, that you value their time, that you will not waste their time by being unprepared during the interview process. It also conveys confidence that you take your job seriously and that the multi-site study is an important endeavor.
Since the atrocities committed by Nazi scientists in World War II and the continuing abuse of people who participate in research, and such examples in the United States as the infamous Tuskegee experiments, the protection of people in research projects has become our most important trust when doing research studies. Increasing focus on human subject protections has become critical to the success of any research project. Both the careful following of all rules and regulations and your will to make the spirit of these laws work for research participants is essential. Central to these protections are the informed consent protocol and protections around privacy and confidentiality. Both of these protections are a contract with the research subject. In exchange for their knowledge, you are providing them with certain protections so they won't be injured by sharing their insights and their understanding and their experiences. The informed consent protocol must present both the risks and the benefits of the research project, and it must be done in an unbiased way. You also have to make sure that not only have you legally gotten their signature before you can go on and collect information, but what is really important is that they understand that informed consent protocol, that you take the time to answer their questions. And don't be afraid that by telling them about the research project that they won't want to participate or that they'll bias their answers. What is most important is that they understand why they're doing it, how the research is going to be used. A second important thing, particularly with people that are stigmatized as mental health consumers, is to protect their rights to privacy and confidentiality. Their name will never be on an interview. Those interviews have to be locked up. When you carry your interviews into the office or when you're analyzing those interviews, is that you have to make sure that there's no way that they can be randomly looked at. They have to be under lock and key. And even where a person's name isn't going to be used, you can't casually talk about, I had an interview the other day and this person did this or this person did that. The only place where it's appropriate to share your observations is in a professional environment with your other interviewers, with your research coordinator, and the people at your site. Otherwise, it is disrespectful and you break that covenant with the person if you talk about them in a casual way. It is important for us to maintain this trust in order to have the partnership of the researcher with the participants. Without that, none of this research is really important or viable if it's produced at the risk of the subjects that have shared their knowledge and their experiences.
Hi, I'm Kim.
And I'm Sarah.
And we're going to take you through Interviewing 101.
As an interviewer, it is important that you are aware of everything that goes on during the interview process. In order to be able to compare the answers that you get in your interview with the answers that other interviewers get, the answers need to be standardized. This means that the environment in which you ask the questions needs to be as similar every time as possible. In order to do this, there are 3 goals of standardization. They are: each respondent is exposed to the same question experience. All answers are recorded in the same manner. Any differences in answers should be directly attributable to differences between respondents, not to differences in the process that produced the answer. By keeping these goals in mind, it helps you to prevent creating interviewer effects. An interviewer effect is anything that reveals your expectations, beliefs, or biases to the respondent. To make sure that this does not occur, try to maintain a neutral approach when asking questions or giving instructions. Do not overestimate how comfortable the respondent is with the material. Even if you can relate to the respondent, it is important that you do not share your own experiences or opinions with him or her. Any information that you give the respondent that's not in the question-by-question guide or in the questionnaire itself will bias the respondent's answer.
As an interviewer, your listening skills are an important part of the interview process. First, it is important to listen attentively to the respondent, so you will be able to probe for more information when necessary and be sensitive to the respondent's level of comfort or discomfort with the questions. It is also important that you hear and understand the responses correctly so that you can record them correctly on the questionnaire. As an interviewer, you should assume a state of relaxed concentration in which you are listening to the respondent, watching the respondent's face and body language, and recording the respondent's answers. However, it is important that you do not stare at the respondent to make them feel uncomfortable. Remember that listening is a skill that will be developed over time, so it is important to practice it throughout the interview.
While conducting an interview, it's important for you to pay attention to the nonverbal cues and body language of the respondent as well as your own. Pay attention to cues that may be conveyed through facial expressions, posture, or hand and foot movements. Things to look for include slouching in a chair, resting your head on your hand, tapping your fingers, shaking your foot, playing with a pencil or another object, yawning, fidgeting, or staring. All of these cues may convey lack of interest, confusion, or other emotions. Pay attention to changes in the body language during an interview as well. These may indicate that the respondent needs to take a break. Also be aware of any cues that you may be giving during the interview that may be biasing the respondent.
Reading the questions to the respondent is one of the most important parts of the interview. Every effort must be made to ensure that all the interviewers at every site read the questions the same way to every respondent. This will help standardize the interview so that the results are valid and accurate. Before beginning to ask questions, you should reassure the respondent that there are no right or wrong answers. As an interviewer, you must read questions exactly as they are worded in the questionnaire, read questions in the order in which they are presented on the questionnaire, ask every question on the questionnaire unless they are skip patterns, read instructions with no additions, deletions, or substitutions, read each question slowly at about 2 words per second. Use a tone of voice that conveys assurance, interest, in a professional manner that is neutral and non-judgmental. Emphasize underlined words to enhance meaning. Never attempt to reword or explain a question. If the respondent does not understand a question, repeat the question slowly. Be careful not to over-enunciate to respondents who are racially or ethnically diverse or have a physical or sensory disability. If the respondent continues to ask for a definition, you may refer to the question-by-question guide for this question. If the respondent still continues to ask what the question means, reply, whatever it means to you. If a respondent becomes frustrated because you cannot continue to explain a question, explain to the respondent that you must read the questions as they are in the questionnaire or in the question-by-question so that each respondent hears the same thing. Sometimes a respondent will want to answer a question before you have finished reading the question. It is crucial that the respondent hear the entire question before responding. If the respondent interrupts, you must continue reading the question. This allows the respondent to hear the entire question, and it also discourages future interruptions. Never skip a question because the answer was given earlier or because you think you know the answer. Don't ever assume anything. If the respondent asks if you already know the information, explain that you must ask the questions as they are in the questionnaire. You may also preface the question by saying, "I know we've already talked about this, but I must continue to ask the question." Here are a few guidelines. When interviewing a person with a hearing loss, make sure the respondent always has a clear and direct view of your face while you are talking. When communicating through interpreter, always look at the respondent, not at the interpreter. Speak with a normal voice, neither shouting nor whispering is appropriate. When interviewing a person with a visual disability, speak in a normal manner unless you have learned that the person also has a hearing loss. Read absolutely everything. Do not rely on visual information. If other people enter the room, always verbally describe what is going on and who is entering. When interviewing a person with a physical disability, do not use insensitive language. Do not hesitate to shake the person's hand. Do not express too much sympathy for the person.
During an interview, there may be instances where the response to a question is unclear, unrelated, or incomplete. Sometimes the respondent may reply that they don't know the answer to a question. In these situations, in order to get the information that you need, it may be necessary to use a probe. A few probes that you can use in an interview include showing interest, pausing, repeating the question, repeating the reply, or asking a neutral question in order to get a clear, more specific, or more relevant answer. Keep in mind that in order not to bias answers, when a respondent asks you to repeat a question or a response choice, you need to repeat the entire question and all of the response choices. There may be situations also where instead of not getting enough information, you get too much information. In this type of situation, you should remind the respondent that you need to complete the interview within the time allotted. You can also say, "Let me sure I have this down right," and tell the respondent what you've written so far in order to refocus the respondent on the topic of the question. When a respondent gives you an "I don't know" answer, it could mean many things. It could mean that the respondent doesn't understand the question but doesn't want to admit it. It could also mean the respondent is thinking about his or her answer and is trying to fill the silence. Keep in mind that the respondent just may not want to answer the question, or it could be that the respondent really doesn't have an opinion on the subject. In any case, you should always probe an "I don't know" question at least once.
Some of the questions on the questionnaire have more than 4 or 5 responses. Since we know it's difficult for the respondents to remember all the answer choices, we have provided scale cards. Before reading the question, hand the respondent the scale card and ask them to choose one of the answer choices. Using the scale cards will help make the interview flow much smoother.
Often during the interview, the respondent may have questions about the survey, the meaning of a question, or about you, the interviewer. It's important that you don't give the respondent any information that's not included in the question-by-question guide or in the survey itself. Any personal information that you give the respondent may bias his answers.
Feedback consists of actions or statements which indicate to the respondent that he or she is successfully answering your questions and encourages like responses for future questions. Feedback should not be confused with interviewer effects. Giving the respondent feedback does not lead anyone to answer in a specific way. Rather, it encourages appropriate responses for future questions. You must decide when and how to give feedback to a respondent. Respondents who exhibit appropriate behavior will listen to the entire question before answering, give clear and specific answers, and avoid digressing or telling a story when answering a question. If a respondent interrupts your questions, offers partial or unclear answers, or answers each question with a story, this is inappropriate, and you should use probes or neutral nonverbal techniques to encourage more appropriate responses. Here are some examples of feedback. In the previous examples, the phrases "I see" and "thank you" are feedback phrases used to indicate that the respondent is responding appropriately. However, the next example demonstrates feedback to an inappropriate answer. In that example, pausing and repeating the question gave the respondent time to think, hear, and listen to the question a second time. Remember that effective interviewers give feedback for good performance, not good content. Interviewers should not use the phrases okay or all right when providing feedback to a respondent because they indicate agreement to the response. Some respondents may need more feedback to encourage appropriate responses, while other respondents may need less.
In order for the data to be used for analysis, it's crucial that you code the respondent's answers correctly and accurately. If the respondent answers a question with an I don't know answer, code NaNS. Also code NaNS if the respondent doesn't answer the question or refuses to. If you probe to get an answer for a question, mark a P by the question. If the respondent has a difficulty understanding the question, make a note of that as well in the margins of the question. If you forgot to ask a question, you should mark NaSK. It is important that each question has some type of answer in the space provided for it. The most common errors that interviewers make are omitting an answer, recording the wrong answer, circling more than one answer or entering more than one number, writing illegibly or in abbreviations that are not readily understandable to the people who are entering data. If you accidentally write the wrong answer for a question, or if the respondent decides to change their mind, cross out the answer, don't erase it, and mark error next to it. If you're using a laptop, simply delete the wrong answer and enter the right one. You should not record digressions, but if something unusual happens in your interview that you feel is noteworthy, you should make a note of it in the post-interview observations section.
About halfway through the interview, you may want to take a 10-minute break. You will get more valid and accurate responses if your respondent has had a chance to rest halfway through. It is important for you to be aware of any behaviors which indicate that your respondent may need to rest, such as fidgeting. It is also important to be aware of any side effects from medications which may necessitate the need for a drink, something to eat, or another rest. Some respondents may need more breaks than others, and it's important to be aware of that. However, always be careful not to small talk in a way that may bias the responses during the rest of the questionnaire.
During the interview, try to be sensitive to signs that the respondent may not be able to finish the interview. Pay attention to cues that may indicate that they are experiencing emotional distress or for some other reason cannot participate further. The respondent may seem disoriented, paranoid, distracted, or angry. If he or she seems reluctant to participate in the interview further, remind them that the interview is confidential and that they can choose which questions they choose to answer. Remind them of the purpose of the interview and how important their participation is. Also make sure that they know that they can take a break whenever they feel it's necessary. If you ever feel uncomfortable in an interview, tell the respondent that you have finished asking questions and you appreciate their time. Your safety and comfort is most important, and ending an interview early will not be held against you.
Once the interview is completed, the respondent may have questions about the content of the survey. At this time, it may be important for you to review the purpose of the survey and the use of the information. You may also offer the respondent the field coordinator or director's telephone number that they may contact them if they have questions about the content or survey process. Remember, it is always important to thank the respondent for his or her time and effort and to let the respondent know that their participation is extremely important in the success of our project.
While it's still fresh on your mind, you may want to write down some notes about the interview right after you finish it. You'd want to write down whether you thought the respondent was attentive and responsive, whether or not they understood all the questions, or if there were any other problems that came up. You would also want to write down if there were any mistakes that you made during the interview. These types of notes will help your project director assess the validity of the questionnaire.
I'm glad you made it so promptly. Appreciate it. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing okay.
Okay. Okay, first thing in the agenda is the informed consent. All you need to do is just simply sign it and put today's date on it.
Well, don't I need to read this first or something?
No, that's
I mean,
that's all been already, it's just a formality. It's already been explained to you by your caseworker or whomever you spoke to when you signed up for this study.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
There you go.
thank you. Okay. First question, what race or ethnicity do you consider yourself to be? Black, white, Latino, Native American, Native Hawaiian, or other Pacific Islander, probably Polynesian, Asian, other?
Can you repeat that? I didn't get all of those.
Okay. I'll repeat the question as well. What race or ethnicity do you consider yourself to be? White, black, Latino or Hispanic, Native American, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, Asian or other?
Black.
Okay.
You know, it's warm in here. It's very hot. Can't you do something about this heat?
Well, as you can see, I've opened the
terrible.
windows and I have the fan on. Yeah, it's very stuffy. For privacy purposes, we've had the door closed most of the day, and it's unusually warm outside.
Yeah.
So I apologize for that, but as you can see, we're doing everything we can to try to cool it off a bit. Okay. Okay. I feel a little uncomfortable with this question. I don't know. I think it's a little bit too personal and invasive.
Oh,
Well, the very nature just, I don't know, it seems to invade
come on, just
people's
ask,
privacy.
just ask the question.
Well, okay. I'm going to ask you about your sexual orientation. How do you identify yourself? And I have response cards that you choose your answers from,
Okay.
and you can choose from that.
What is this heterosexual mean? I'm not sure what that is. Heterosexual?
Heterosexual? Means straight.
Straight. What is straight?
Straight?
Yeah. Straight? Does that mean not drunk or?
No, although it's used in that context. No, it just means that you're attracted to men.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, I guess that's what I am, heterosexual.
Oh, you can pronounce it too. Okay. What is your current job status?
You know,
And I have a card for that as well.
you know, it's hot in here. It is hot.
I hear you. And here's a response card.
Okay. I had to pick out one of these, huh? Well, transitional employment. I'm not sure if I understand what that means. Transitional. I guess it means, though, like you're in transition between jobs. I guess that's what I am, because I had a job last week, and I don't have a job anymore, but tomorrow I start a new job. So it's like
Okay.
I'm in transition.
Sounds
So-
good to me.
Okay.
Good choice.
All right.
What kind of job are you starting tomorrow?
Oh, tomorrow I'm going to start working in this auto place. I'm going to be doing typing,
Oh,
and I'm really excited about that.
I see.
Because I was working in this factory before, and it was hot all the
Yeah.
time in there. No air
Yeah.
conditioner, no fans. So
Seems-
I'm looking forward
Seems like
to
that's
it.
a theme in your life.
Yeah, I
you're
can't
hot.
stand the
Yeah,
heat.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, I hope the job works out for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next, we're going on to the empowerment section, and it's a rather lengthy description, and it's much too long-winded and wordy. So I'm just going to simply tell you that it's basically there's statements, and again, I have a card,
Okay.
and you either agree or disagree, or strongly agree or strongly disagree.
Okay.
And just, off the top of your head, tell me how you're feeling now.
All right.
Okay. People working together have an effect on their community.
Wait a minute, did you just skip a page? You didn't ask me the questions on that other page.
Boy,
Did you
you're
skip?
watching me
Are you
like-
trying to trick me, Nancy, or you skipped something?
No,
didn't
no,
you?
no, no. I'm just doing. I'm not doing them in order. I'm just for variety's sake. I've done this interview, half a dozen times, and
Oh.
I'm just not asking them in order, but I am asking you all the questions.
Oh,
I just
okay.
find it a little more interesting to kind of jump around and
Oh,
ask them.
okay.
You get different variations.
I can understand that.
Yeah, I'll repeat that. People working together can have an effect on their community.
Let's see. It's kind of between strongly agree and agree. It's in between those two.
Well, do you find yourself leaning to more to one than the other?
Not really. It's like kind of
Okay.
in the middle.
In the middle?
Yeah.
Okay, let's put it strongly disagree.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you think that's what it, the best answer, that's fine. Okay.
Okay. Okay, the next statement is, you can't fight City Hall.
Let's see. Well, I know what City Hall is, but I don't know what you mean by that question exactly.
You've never heard of the expression City Hall?
I've heard of City Hall, and I know what City Hall is, but I don't know exactly what you mean by fight City Hall. I'm not sure what that means.
Well, it's whatever you think it means.
Oh. Well, yeah, I still don't know what it means, so I guess we should maybe just go to the next question.
Well, I have to get an answer.
Well, I don't
Whatever
know.
you think it means.
Well, I'll say strongly disagree, I guess.
All right. Thank you. Onward and upward. Do you believe that you have been discriminated against?
Now, see,
And I have a card for that.
you got a card for that discrimination.
Sure do.
I can't believe that I would walk in here. Here I am, a black woman walking in here, and you're going to ask me have I been discriminated
We have
against? Of
anything-
course, I've been discriminated against.
Don't
I
take
can't
it-
believe that question is in there. And
Please don't get angry with me.
you should just know. You should know that.
Well,
any black person has been discriminated against.
I'm not asking for myself. You're taking this much too personally. I'm asking it because it's a question in the questionnaire. I have to ask you all the questions, and I have to get responses.
But I just can't believe
And we have to complete the test in a timely manner. And,
that. Okay.
just tell me what areas you believe you're
Okay.
discriminated against.
Well, all of these. I mean,
All of them?
All of these. Mental disability, race, gender, religion, age, economic circumstance, arrest with jail, all of them. All of them.
Did you look over all the categories?
All of them. I've been discriminated against in all of those areas.
Are you being completely honest with me?
See, there, I thought you didn't believe me. You were looking like, she's lying. But, I resent that because I have been discriminated against in all these areas, and I can tell you specifically instances. Just the other day, something happened to me.
I'm not asking you that. I guess I'll just have to take your answer. I wasn't implying that you were being dishonest, but, again, it is important that you answer honestly because it does
Well, I
influence
told
the-
you my
the
true
outcome.
answer, and that's the truth.
Okay. All right. Where are we? Sorry, this is my third interview today, and I'm just very tired.
I don't know how you stood it in here with all this heat.
Yeah, and this hot room.
I can't
and
even, I don't know how you stood it.
With that and all the discrimination in your life must be awful.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Terrible.
Onward and upward. Okay, people, and this has a, okay. Some people use spirituality as a source of inspiration or support to themselves. Is this true for you?
Yes. I am a Muslim.
Oh, and proud of it, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay, and to find out now, these silly cards. Okay, and that's a response card for the next question. And please indicate the degree to which you are spiritual. Not at all, a little bit, moderately, quite a bit, very.
The degree?
Yeah.
Well,
it says.
you're spiritual or you're not. To me, there's no degree of spirituality. How can there be
Well-
a degree? It's like you're spiritual or you're not.
We're not a philosophy class. We're here to just, the responses that you have in front of you are the responses, the closest one to how you would answer it is what I need.
I don't think you can quantify your spirituality. I mean, you're spiritual or you're not. It's yes or no. So.
All right. Okay. Fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jaime Delgado, and I'm the leader of the Cultural Competency and Diversity Task Force for the Cosp project. And I'm going to give you a brief introduction to the training component, for the interviewer training component on cultural competency, which in reality what we're talking about is cultural diversity. I think as part of the training I should make it clear that with the limited time and the resources that we have, and also because of other factors that will be covered in the training, making a distinction between sensitivity and competency, what we're looking for is cultural sensitivity, and that is that the objective of the component of training is to assure that the interviews are carried out in a manner that is culturally sensitive to the participant. And not only will that increase the accuracy of the information, it also assures that in working and being sensitive and connecting with the participant, that they would come back and feel comfortable with receiving the services at the agency where you'll be doing the interview. Also, it's important to note that as an interviewer, it's important to understand that cultural competency, or to believe in cultural competency, because many times when people tell me they do not believe in cultural competency or cultural sensitivity, the reasons that they give me for not believing is based on their own belief system, on the way that they were raised, on things that are important to them, which in fact are cultural reasons. And so it's ironic, but that makes the point of how culture impacts us all. Also, many people feel uncomfortable or frustrated dealing with the subject of race and ethnicity. And some people are confused about what cultural competency is, what cultural sensitivity is, and confuse it with affirmative action. So it's important that we clarify these things, and we get this training in a way that we help build awareness among the interviewers. As interviewers, your role is to obtain accurate information. And it's easier, it will facilitate your obtaining accurate information if you're aware of some of the barriers to effective communication. Research has shown that cultural differences or cultural variations or value differences and value variations between the interviewer and the participant affects not only the accuracy of the information itself, but also the comfort level in carrying out the interview. And every culture is set in a way that norms and values are carried out and transmitted to different generations and taught that they are the right norms to have, the right values to have, and have an impact on the development of the individual. Culture provides people with a design for living. It provides them for a way of not only how to relate to their environment, but how to interact with their environment. And then of course here we're dealing with a very diverse environment. And so then self-awareness is very important, and culture is very important, not just important to the participant, but it's also important to the interviewer, and that it helps identify the values in the communication that's being carried out. Race and ethnicity are important elements, or dominant elements in culture, but they are not the only elements. And Dr. Veda Thompson will be giving you more information on the definition of culture. But it's important to note that culture is the shared values and norms and history, folklore, institution, language of a group of people. And there are many different forms of culture, which Dr. Vedder will get into. But everyone has a culture, and everyone belongs to several subcultures. Within a culture, you can have differences in gender, religion, different breakdowns, which we call subcultures. Factors such as geographic location, lifestyle, and age are also important variables and are considered within group or intracultural factors that also need to be considered in your interview. Too often, people interpret behavior as being negative or offensive or inferior because they don't really understand the value of that culture, don't understand the history of those people and why they think the way they think and why they do what they do. An example of that would be when you are doing an interview or you ask someone a question, they may look at you, their body language may appear blank, but in their culture they may be just showing you respect. So the difference in how they interact with you is based on the values of their culture and how they were raised. There are several reasons why someone may not give you accurate information, and one of those reasons may be because they don't trust you, because you look different than they look, because your style of doing things are differently. And we have to understand that for different populations in the United States, there are some populations are very accustomed to giving information, to being interviewed, being in polls, questionnaires. But there are other sectors of the population, particularly racial, ethnic, and religious and gender sectors that have felt neglected and marginalized or have had a history of oppression and don't feel comfortable giving up information as readily as other populations do. And it's important to understand the motives and the reasons behind that. There are several other factors involved that have to do with your own personal characteristics, how you carry yourself, your use of terminology, how you talk to the individual. Are you very, kind of uppity in your interaction with them? Different characteristics, your ethnicity, if you speak with an accent. And it's important to understand that it's how they perceive you. Whether those things are really factors or not, it's important how they perceive you. So we want to try to minimize those things to the extent that we can. The objective, as I said, of the training itself, of this component of the interviewer training, is to ensure that the interview is carried out in a culturally sensitive manner. So no one expects that you're going to learn everyone's language or everyone's history and know every possible thing about everyone that comes in through the door. Your challenge is going to be able to work as an interviewer with a variety of people that will be coming, and without trying to put one value or one culture as superior or better than the other. What you will need to do, however, is to acknowledge that culture is a predominant force in shaping behavior, values, and institutions. Acknowledge and accept that cultural differences exist and have an impact on the interview process. Believe that diversity within cultures is as important as diversity between cultures. Respect the unique culturally defined needs of the various populations that you will be interviewing. Understand that people from different racial and ethnic groups can be more comfortable with someone that is either like them or is familiar with them or connects with them. The important thing is to be able to connect and have a certain rapport with the population. And lastly is the importance of recognizing the benefits and the good of both worlds. That is, that the culture that they bring in and the culture that you bring into it, and making it work together as a way of having it a successful and meaningful interview.
Hi, I'm Betta Sanders Thompson, and I'm going to talk to you about some specific issues related to cultural competency with the Cosp project. Now, the issues that I'm going to talk about are issues that we don't typically deal with in our society. We don't discuss issues of race and ethnicity, nationality, or discrimination very often. Because of this, you may experience some discomfort as you approach these issues during the interview, and the interviewee may experience some discomfort as well. With prior preparation and knowledge of these issues, you will do a better job of obtaining accurate information, and you will also be able to obtain that information in a more culturally sensitive manner. Now, when we speak of race, culture, ethnicity, we often use these as if they're synonymous terms, but they are not synonymous terms, and they have different meanings. It is important for this project that we obtain data on each of these issues so that we can better interpret the responses from the interviewee. When we speak of race, we are typically talking about a term that has biological underpinnings, where we use skin color, other physical features, heritage as the way of defining who belongs in which category. Typically, when we think of race, we're thinking of three groups: people of African descent or people who are black, Asians, and Caucasians. When we speak of ethnicity, we are most often considering a term that has to do with social, political, historical relationships among people, bonds that have to do with use of language, religion, history, or in some instances, origin from a particular country. A related term is nationality. Nationality really refers to country of origin. When we think of nationality, we might think of someone who is Mexican, someone who's Chinese, someone who's Jamaican. When we're thinking of ethnicity, on the other hand, we're likely to think of a broad range of people, a broad range of groups. Individuals who are Japanese American, individuals who are Cuban American, individuals who are Jewish, individuals who are Italian American. We have a number of ethnicities that we encounter in our society today. All of these issues are related to culture, and in some way they inform cultural norms, preferences, behaviors, attitudes. For that reason, understanding these issues and their relationship to culture helps us in our interpretation of the responses from the interviewees. Now, a related issue that we typically don't discuss is that of discrimination. Discrimination has a history in our country. It has often been related to ethnicity, race, religion, culture, able-bodiedness, language use, sexual orientation. The members of the Cultural Diversity Committee of the project believe that in understanding empowerment issues, it would be important to ask individuals to talk about their experiences in receiving services and making efforts to be empowered about their experiences with discrimination, because their experiences may have been differentially colored by the way people responded to their sexual orientation, their ethnicity, their race, their status as an able-bodied person, their language use. And it would be important to understand these issues to understand fully their experiences within the system. I hope that in having these definitions and exploring these issues, that you can understand why you're being asked to obtain this information. You can increase your level of comfort with asking these questions, and you will assist us in having the most accurate information that we possibly can, so that we can interpret the data that we obtain in a manner that is most sensitive.
So there you have it. By now you should have a pretty good idea of what your responsibilities are as an interviewer. Those responsibilities are: read the questions as worded, avoid direct probes, record answers accurately and legibly, avoid assuming an answer rather than asking the question, create good rapport with the respondent, create a favorable interview environment, make sure that all paperwork is completed, understand the purpose of the survey, and most importantly, practice.
Oh, scared the life out of me.
Oh,
My
I'm sorry.
God.
I thought you saw me come in.
Oh, your hands are cold.
Yeah, it's cold in here.
Well, that's why I have the heater on and on high, and we're doing our best.
It's real chilly.
Yeah. Okay, your name is Sin?
My name is Cynthia.
Cynthia?
I don't like that sin because, you know, when I was in school, people used to tease me sinful sin, and I hate when people call me sin. Oh, you think it's funny? How would you like to go through life with people calling you sin?
Oh, I think it'd be
like
fun.
you're a sinner or something.
Well, that's what I want to be when I grow up. Okay. The informed consent. Very important piece of paper. Everything's already been explained to you. It's a 2-hour interview. Be asking some personal questions. Try to be as honest and forthright as possible.
Okay.
Some of them may make you feel uneasy or uncomfortable, but they're not meant to affect you that way. In any event, you can sign and date this after we complete the interview.
Oh, okay.
All right. Okay. What race or ethnicity do you consider yourself to be? I'll read the answers. White, black, Latino. Well, silly. You're black. Right?
Well, I'm not black.
You're not?
I don't know why people always assume that I'm not black.
Oh. I say, well, you look black to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what everybody says, but I'm not.
Do you want me to read through the list again?
Yes.
Okay. White, black, Latino or Hispanic, Native American, Native Hawaiian, or other Pacific Islander, Asian.
Well, I'm part Latino and I'm part Native American.
Oh, is that so?
Not black.
No black. Do you have any tribal affiliation?
Yes, Cherokee.
Cherokee. Okay.
No, it's cold in this room. It is just, it's too cold in here.
Oh, it's fine. You've got to get used to it. We're going to be here for a while. You'll be okay. It's not that cold. I mean, wait until it's really, really cold, and then we're going to have problems. Okay, where am I? Okay, now we're going to ask you about your sexual orientation. How do you identify?
Wait a minute. What does sexual orientation have to do with this interview?
It has everything to do with it because it's included. It's a question included in the interview.
Well, I don't think that's anybody's business but mine, and I don't think I should have to answer that question.
I'm sorry, but you're going to have to answer, and it's one of the questions that may make you uneasy, but if you don't answer all the questions, then you don't get paid, and we can't complete the interview, and let's just move on and
What
get
you mean
to
if
it,
I don't answer this question, I can't get paid? Is that
well,
what you're telling me?
If I'm going to have a problem with every question that I ask you,
No, it's just that one.
It's just,
I don't feel that that's anybody's business. It's just that question.
Hey, I'll make a deal with you. I won't tell anyone.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. Yeah.
I don't even know you. It's the first time I've met you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've heard that before. But go ahead and ask the question. And
Sin, no. Well, maybe I do know you better than I think I do.
Just go ahead and ask the question. Since I won't get paid if I don't answer it, I'll go ahead and answer it.
All right. Sexual orientation. How do you identify yourself? And here's the response card, and I'm really tired.
Heterosexual.
All right.
And you better not tell anybody.
Not a soul. I think you'd be proud. Okay. Get a tight sheet this morning. I'm really tight.
It's cold in here. Freezing. You know how you can stand it in here? It's cold as it is.
Well, that's the least of my worries at this point. I just want to get this done.
You and me too.
Okay, we're going to, we're in the empowerment section, and it's kind of wordy. Basically, I just want you to tell me how you feel about statements that I read to you.
Okay.
And we have a response card.
Okay.
Those are your choices. Okay, people working together can have an effect on their community.
Yeah, people working together. I never believe in working together with other people. It's just best to do stuff with whatever you're going to do, just do it by yourself. Because when you get with other people, they stab you in the back and they do all of this stuff. So it's just best to work on your own, I think. So I guess I would, I would have to say I strongly disagree with that one. It's just best to do stuff on your own. Then you stay out of trouble and
Are you
don't
sure?
get. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
I would say strongly disagree.
Okay. Can't fight City Hall.
Can't fight City Hall. Well, it's kind of in between disagree and strongly disagree on that one.
Which way are you leaning? Leaning.
It's
Leading.
really kind of in between those two.
In between you and me, dear.
Yeah, I can't say
Well,
one over the other.
Just say one.
Just
I
say
don't care.
one? It
Yeah.
doesn't matter?
Makes my
Okay.
life easier.
Okay, well I'm just gonna say disagree.
Okay, you're not lying, are you?
Well, you just said say one, so just put disagree down there.
Okay.
And you know what? It is too cold in here, and I can't stand it any longer, so I'm just going to have to get ready to go. 'Cause
Well, wait
I
a minute,
can't
wait a
stand
minute,
to
wait a
be
minute.
this
Do you
cold.
understand the repercussions of you leaving? Do
What
you
do
want
you
to take a
mean?
short break or something?
No, I
No,
want
I-
to go. I
I
don't want to be in this
Plan
room.
to finish this interview today.
Well,
and I can't
sorry.
pay you until it's completed.
What, you
until-
mean I can't get paid?
No,
Well-
not until the interview is completed.
Well, I can't stand
You
it
sure you don't want to
anymore.
take a break?
No, I'm just going. Just forget about the money. It's just too cold in here for me.
Wonder what her problem is. Who knows? Who cares? Oh, forgot to reschedule. Someone else can do it.
As we conclude this training, I want to leave you with a few important thoughts to take back to your local sites and to carry with you as you conduct the interviews into the future. First of all, remember that consumer survivors are participating in this project at every level, from being principal investigators of sites to myself, who am also a mental health consumer, to being interviewers and to being research participants. What is key in this project is that we continually try to treat people as human beings. And hopefully this research project will be an important passage from thinking of mental health consumers as just research subjects, as patients, as beds, as data to be countered. That movement from patienthood to personhood. We have to treat the data, the people who collect it, and the people who provide that information with courtesy and respect. That's the prime directive. If you convey that the information that you're collecting is important, that you care about that information, and that what they tell you as research participants is important, you will get a good interview. People want to make a contribution. They want to share and be part of the knowledge production process. Be accommodating to people's needs. I know it's difficult when you're on your 10th or 12th interview and you've gone over the protocol many times and the pressure is to get the work done, to continually think about treating people as human beings and being respectful to them. Be sensitive to their environment, to their needs to take breaks, to the necessity maybe to have to reschedule. Realize, even though people are getting paid, that providing responses to a long common protocol is very hard work, as much work as your collection of the information. And be kind to yourself. It shows if you really care about the project, believe in its objectives, and really consider the human beings involved as our most important commodity. Finally, As we move forward in this research, we have to be extremely careful not to, in the effort to study consumer-operated services, to destroy their essential nature due to the requirements of research. One thing that we can all do is make every effort not to burden the participants of the study or the consumer-operated services themselves. The collection of data and the production of data will only be successful if we all work together in partnership.